On this week's episode, did the Mandalorian get off to a good start? We say goodbye to the legend, Sir Sean Connery, and rejoice, all you McRib lovers out there. The McRib is on its way. All this and more as we once again delve into the pop culture cosmos. And we're back with another episode of the Pop Culture Cosmos. This is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, and the Lakers Fast Break. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our great shows. And if you can, please give us that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Plus, if you can give us a like, share, subscribe, follow, throw out some of those Facebook gaming stars at us, it is truly appreciated. Anyway, you can go ahead and support us right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos, Inside Sports Fantasy Football, Game Source, Lakers Fast Break, and also Josh's things that are out there, including Topicocalypse, the Super BS Gamescast, and more coming up here in a second. But it wouldn't be a Pop Culture Cosmos without my good friend. He's our own McRib of Pop Culture Cosmos. You got to go ahead and check out what he's doing today at popculturecosmos.com. His awesome book, Congratulations, You Suck, which I have now on my Kindle. You can also go ahead and check it out today at amazon.com or barnesandnoble.com. Plus his great shows, Super BS Gamescast and Topicocalypse. It is my good friend. It is Mick Josh Peterson. What's up, man?
What's up? I hear there's some big things coming out of McDonald's these days, but I'm sure we'll get to that later. What's going on, man? How you doing?
What's going on indeed? Not too much now, getting over the Halloween type celebration. I hope everyone had a safe and happy Halloween and is going to go ahead and hopefully head into a great month in November. Wishing everybody safe and just health, safety and good health out there. Want to go ahead and give everybody a shout out on what was coming up for today's program. First of all, we're going to go ahead and honor the late Sean Connery, who passed away this weekend at the age of 90. We're going to talk about some of the things that went on in his career that we liked, that we followed, and obviously delve into his world of James Bond. We're going to talk about also as well we're going to review, or at least I am going to review, The Mandalorian Episode 1, Season 2, Episode 1. How was it? Did it get off to a better start than last year's? For me, at least anyways, because I know a lot of people loved it right off the get-go. For me, it was a nice slow burn that really got better and better almost every time out. So I'm going to talk to you about my thoughts on Episode 1 coming up. Walmart is kicking off the Black Friday season this year in a little bit different fashion. So we're going to talk about their first ad coming up this week right here on the show. Arcade 1-Up is announcing a big game lineup for its pinball machines. We're going to talk about what kind of games are being attached to their systems, and also, is Arcade 1-Up pinball a good idea? We're going to talk about that coming up. This wasn't such a great year to watch horror movies, so we'll go ahead and just outline our thoughts on that. And we also have Kelly Lanigan, who is going to be on today's show later on in the program on the back half of the hour, talking about HBO's The Vow. And Ben Arnault is also excited, and he's going to tell you why he's so excited for The Mandalorian as well. But my friend, first off, I wanted to go ahead and knock this out of the way as far as the Xbox. We're just a few days away, my friend, from the Xbox Series S and the Xbox Series X being released out there onto the wild as we start or embark on a new console generation. I want to first ask you this, my friend. When it comes to the Xbox, this will be really, in my opinion, the first time that they will have an even slate, a clean slate, that they've got a lot of things in their back pocket that they can throw out there to consumers. This will be actually, in my opinion, truly the first time they will get off to a great they have a great foundation and can realistically win a console generation over Nintendo and Sony. I didn't say they would. I just said they have an opportunity to.
It's funny. I feel like Nintendo, just because it is Nintendo and the collector value and just like the mania that exists over their products, I think that they don't ever have to worry about anything. They can worry even with like this dry spell of games we're experiencing right now through Nintendo. They really don't have anything to worry about because they can come out in February or March and say, hey, like this is, guess what comes out next week, Super Mario Odyssey 2, and then it would sell 1 million copies. Like they can literally do no wrong by the fans, and I think that is something that will always work in Nintendo's favor. As for Xbox and PlayStation, they are the like the Google and Apple of video games, right? They're the bigs. You go to or used to go to E3, and you'd see Microsoft and PlayStation competing with these massive booths and games and stuff. To them it's a little different thing. Here's where I stand with the whole console launch thing, is that it was performed very poorly. They made everyone wait so long to find out what was going on, and there's so many like shady things going on behind the scenes with pre-orders. Like, we were talking about with Walmart, you had to have had like a history of shopping for Sony products in order for Walmart to let you into the pre-order queue. Like, there's just so many things going on behind the scenes. I'm sure Xbox experienced something similar. I don't know exactly what it was. I've heard stories about people who waited in line for hours, or not hours, but waited, during the queue trying to get one of these and still like never got it. So I don't know. There's just something. I don't think the pre-orders were done well for either of them. I'm going to try to buy an Xbox on next Friday, right?
November 10th.
Yeah, so I'm gonna try to get one, and here's why. Just because, like, I think that Microsoft has done a lot for their fans. Where Sony, I guess, in the same way as Nintendo, can really like do no wrong for their fans. Like, they can just have a dry spell. They can say, "Hey, our pre-orders are going live in 3 hours," and people will be like, "Yeah, I still want one." But with Microsoft, it's been a slow rise for them. Like, they've never really. Xbox 360 was an excellent console. They did really well by their fans by offering to replace the ones that had red ringed. Xbox One had a big is an uphill climb for them, but I've always kind of like stayed faithful to them, and I like Phil Spencer, and I love that he is working towards more IPs, and he's working towards really giving the fans what they want as far as like backwards compatibility goes and faster loading time. I feel like Microsoft is more like fan centric, and if you're asking me reasons that I want to buy one, I'm comparing them here. Microsoft has just straight out come out and said, we will upgrade a lot of your games for free. Whereas Sony has been really like, we may or may not. They haven't really been clear on that. Microsoft has been solid on like the backwards compatibility. Like, what you're getting, where Sony has been very vague about it. Microsoft has, they bought Bethesda, and that's going to be something big for them. But I think that they care about their fans, whereas like I haven't seen that from Sony, and because of that, I am, I guess, a little more faithful to the brand that is Xbox.
And that's something I want to ask you. I mean, you've built that loyalty, or they've built that loyalty with you over the years, but this is going to be a time where, again, both, I think, on as even as plain as possible going into a console generation. Even the last console generation with the Xbox One and PlayStation 4, Xbox One with some bad verbiage by Xbox execs, and also as well I guess the slam that PlayStation really set up for them at that E3, where they talked about the game sharing and all that. It really put Xbox One off to a bad start. Now you can't say that. They both don't have a dearth of new games coming out. Maybe PlayStation 5 is going to have a little bit more as far as new games, but really, when it comes down to it, they will not have a specific exclusive game lineup that's going to get anybody. Most of the games that will be able to get for it at launch will be pre-existing games that you can buy on other platforms. So what is the allure of the Xbox this time around because, again, I think this time around they have as best a chance as possible to go ahead and come out on top this time around.
So what's funny is that I think the Xbox we would have seen so much more like fanfare over it had Halo Infinite clung to that release date. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and as someone who is a fan of Halo, like I honestly don't understand what the big deal was. Like I thought the game looked okay. They were experimenting with a new platform, a new engine. But then I'm starting to hear things about Cyberpunk, and it sounds like the fact that they were asked to develop for both next gen and last gen consoles is what's causing all these I guess graphical problems with some of these games, is what's causing a
It's
lot of the
it's
delays.
scaling them down is the problem for
Yeah.
the older systems.
Mm-hmm. So I have a I mean I think that the the loudness of the media or Sony fanboys or Microsoft fanboys, whatever it was, still had something to do with the Halo Infinite backlash. But I also think that it's they were asking too much to have them develop these like high profile games for two different consoles. That being said, I would have put more effort into securing one on pre-order day had Halo been a launch title with it. Now that I missed my chance to get one, I'm still hoping to get one on launch day. When we'll see how that goes. But uh, if you're asking me what the main selling point for me is, it would be the fact that Games Pass exists. It'd be you have Games Pass, you have access to all these libraries, you pay for Games Pass Ultimate. Not only do you get to play on your Xbox One, you get to play on your PC, you get to play on the Series X, you get to play even on the Project X Cloud thing that they have going on now. So it's far more accessible, and it's like Netflix for games, right? You're paying 12 bucks a month depending on which one you have, and you just have access to all of these games. And Sony, I think they have PlayStation Now, I think the service is called, but from what I understand, it's not nearly as like user friendly
Or robust.
or robust as Games Pass is. And if you're someone who's gaming on a budget, I definitely think that once you pay the $500 for the console, obviously the access to games you get through Microsoft is going to be a lot bigger and better than the one you would get through Sony. And I would hope that in the future, because I'd also like to buy a PS5 at some point, that Sony would kind of grow their library too. But I guess at this point, because neither has big launch titles coming out, it's all matter of opinion or preference.
It is at this point in time, but I think for me also as well, the big factor in why I would lean towards Xbox if I do get either one in any amount of time is the fact that Xbox has gone out of way to acquire studios within the past 2 years. They've acquired a lot of studios, and the big one obviously is the Bethesda Studios, acquiring that corporation for several $billions. And so that to me is a big sign that, you know what, they're going to go ahead and really get serious about this next generation of consoles. I want to ask you this. We've talked before, and at first with both you and Marcus, I had said, you know what, they're never going to go ahead and make Elder Scrolls exclusive. That would be silly. That would be, you'd waste, you're throwing away so much money by doing that. But the more I hear and the more I see Elder Scrolls 6 becoming an exclusive title for the Xbox, I'm not going to say it's a certainty, but it's a definite possibility. That could change my mind, and that could swing a lot of gamers' minds as far as just having the Bethesda behind, having the crew at Bethesda behind you now as an exclusive studio really makes it very even more tantalizing to look into Xbox.
It's funny. I keep thinking. I mean, I've been reading a lot. They've been interviewing Todd Howard and Phil Spencer about the whole Xbox acquisition of Bethesda, and I'm seeing timed exclusives. I'm not seeing like Elder Scrolls and Starlink or whatever it is. Was it Star? Was that what the game was called? Starlink that they were working on, or
Yes,
Starfield?
Starfield.
Yeah, I'm not seeing these as like boom exclusive to this no matter what. I'm seeing them as like 6 month exclusives, kind of like the Final Fantasy and Call of Duty content, right? um and when it finally does, when Phil Spencer decides that it can release on PlayStation 4, I'm really hoping that it changes the mindset of a lot of the like toxic Sony fanboys that are out there and saying like, oh, maybe Microsoft's not such a bad company. It probably won't, and I would fully I don't want to be mean and say that PlayStation people can't play Elder Scrolls, but it would honestly, just because of the attitude that a lot of them take on, it would not be any heartache for me, if that makes sense. But yeah, I think the acquisition of Bethesda is huge for Microsoft, especially like remember when Skyrim came out. That was a big game. People were playing. You could not find a copy of Skyrim if your life depended on it. Like it was one of those games everybody wanted it. I was fortunate enough to work at Best Buy when the game came out, so I was able to snag myself a copy of it. But yeah, that was a huge release, and if the next one is anything
Yeah,
like
but then
Skyrim.
Skyrim came out on every single platform known to
Yeah,
man. So
right. Now it's like when you play Pokemon and you just find like Caterpies over and over again. That is what Skyrim has become. But anyways, like I can see it being, yeah. I mean, if you don't want to wait 6 months or a year or whatever to play the next Elder Scrolls, I can totally see that being a big deciding factor, especially because again, it sold so many units.
it has, and I'm looking forward to seeing both systems come out. I will be getting both systems at some point in time, but which one to decide first? I mean, you're giving the hard sell to people out there on leaning towards an Xbox. That's what you're looking to get first day. We want to hear what everyone thinks about which console that they're leaning towards when it comes to what they're looking for in the next console generation. So, are you leaning Xbox or are you leaning PlayStation? We really want to hear your thoughts on this. I mean, we want to go on into it. We want to go into detail. We'll talk about it here on the show because it is coming up, a new console generation. Do I think both systems are prepared in order to go ahead and handle this next generation? I don't think so. I think hindsight would have told you that they would have done a lot better preparation, a lot better preparation, a lot of more things should have been taken care of before these consoles came out, but it is what it is, and November 10th and November 12th are almost upon us. So we want to hear your thoughts out there on if a PlayStation or Xbox is going to be the way you go first in this console generation. Please share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos at yahoo.com. My friend, there's so much to talk about on today's show, like I said, but the first thing, obviously we got to lean into some very sad news came over the airwaves this weekend, and that was the passing of one of the great actors that I have just admired for so many years, ever since I was a young lad watching the first James Bond movie I ever got to see, and that was the passing of Sir Sean Connery this weekend at the age of 90. Very sad. A lot of people all around the world are expressing their thoughts on it. And it just really just goes to show you that you built this layer of respect, and over the years, his career speaks for itself. Some very high highs and some very low lows. He's been a part of some really not so great movies, but he also has been a part of the Indiana Jones adventures with Indiana Jones, where Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. And then you have also as well, obviously, his work with James Bond in many movies there, being the original James Bond. And we'll go on to that in a sec here as far as James Bond. But he has so many more movies, that The Rock, and of course his Oscar-winning turn in The Untouchables, which I think really stole the movie, even away from good performances from Kevin Costner and Robert De Niro. So I want to hear your thoughts, my friend, on the passing of Sir Sean Connery. It's truly devastating to the Hollywood community, but also we just lost a true legend indeed.
Yeah, I mean it was kind of unexpected. I was sitting on the couch, and then the news popped up on Sean Connery's death, and it was something that I I don't know, you don't really like think it could happen. It's like losing Nicolas Cage, it's just one of those actors that have had like such a big role in movie history, and people make jokes about them, and that kind of like immortalizes them. You see the memes and the jokes, and like K-Rock used to be relentless when it came to Sean Connery jokes, but it was just him dying was something you never really thought about, and then it happens, and you kind of look at it like, what did he mean to me? What should I feel sad about this, or how should I feel about it? For me, like, yeah, it's sad he's gone, but it's not something that like has hit me really hard, but it has left me like really thinking lately about his legacy on film, and I think that he has left a legacy that few actors can really, live up to.
So many great movies he's been a part of, so many movies in detail he's been part of. Obviously, the one that sticks out the most is how he originated the James Bond character on screen in the movies. And he wasn't their first choice at the time. I've heard him in interviews this past weekend that were taped many years ago, stating that he was the budget conscious choice, to say the least. They wanted to get higher profile actors for the role, but that role fit him to the T, and he molded it into what we see today with Daniel Craig's character and all that. I'm going to say this out loud. Is he the greatest James Bond ever to play the role? Because I think, it's really hard to go ahead and do anyone else justice compared to him. There's been a lot of great performances outside of what he's done, but I really think when it comes to James Bond, it starts with Sean Connery.
Yeah. I mean, anytime you hear people talk about James Bond, it is always Sean Connery, right? Like, who was the best James Bond? Sean Connery. A lot of people like to say Pierce Brosnan, but he was like my least favorite. So
I
I stand
disagree with
by.
you on that one. So, but okay,
Uh,
that's for
yeah,
another
I
day.
mean,
Another day is Sean Connery.
another
Sean Connery.
day. Yeah, Sean Connery is. Yeah, he is like the OG James Bond. He was the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. He was Indiana Jones. He was was that a movie where he played King Arthur and Richard Gere like made his wife cheat on him? Oh, First Night. Is that the one I'm thinking about?
Yeah,
If I remember correctly,
I
yeah.
think so. Yeah.
But he was in a lot of big roles, but he was also in a lot of like obscure roles. Like, he was a classically trained actor, and he left a legacy, or he's leaving or left a legacy on cinema that few people can really like live up to, I guess. And he was a man who, yeah, he didn't like the spotlight, but he was a great, I mean, not didn't like it, but like he was someone who always tried to like stay out of the newspapers and tabloids and stuff like that. So he was, I don't know, like he was the everyman's actor, if that makes sense.
Let me ask you this: going on James Bond actors, and you might change your mind on what you just said in regards to Pierce Brosnan after this. George Lazenby was the actor who played in one role, one time, the James Bond character in a James Bond movie. I think it was as in Her Majesty's Secret Service. And I want to ask you this as we go ahead and into detail here. When I ask you with George Lazenby, his performance wasn't very well thought of, and obviously they jumped into Roger Moore, and going on and going forward, they, I don't know, they just they decided to go into a different direction after one outing with George Lazenby and in Her Majesty for Her Majesty's Secret Service. I want to ask you this: had George Lazenby started off with Doctor No and the original James Bond movies, would that have changed your perception on the whole James Bond thing? Do you think it would have achieved the same level of success if it would have been George Lazenby filling those shoes? Because I mean, personally, if it wasn't Sean Connery in those early roles, I don't think the James Bond lore would be what it is today.
No, no, not at all. I honestly, like, okay, I take that back. George Lazenby's probably not, he's probably my least favorite one, but I see why he only had one film. And weren't there like contract disputes going on at that time? Like, didn't Sean Connery do like a one-off James Bond movie that was not
He
part?
did
They
one
don't.
in he did one in the 80s, yes, playing the role of James Bond, but it's not an official canon James Bond, but
Yeah,
even
they
though he
don't.
did play James Bond, yeah.
They don't call it like an Eon film. I think there's
Yeah.
what they refer to those as. But Yeah, I mean, I think Sean Connery, like, he embodies that role, and I think, and what's interesting is that in a lot of interviews with the actors that followed him, you ask them, where are you drawing inspiration for this character? And a lot of them will say they're trying to build upon what Sean Connery has already done.
Absolutely. So it'll be very sad going forward when a little bit melancholy when you see either Daniel Craig or whoever succeeds Daniel Craig in the role of James Bond or 007 or anything of that nature, because the legacy that has been left behind by Sir Sean Connery. But there's so many other great roles. The Highlander, the original, which a lot of people love his take as the mentor, so to speak, to Christopher Lambert in his role there. So, well, I will say this: however much I enjoyed that the Highlander, the first one, the Highlander #2 is probably one of the worst movies I've ever seen of all time. So let's not, it's like I said, there's really high highs when it comes to Sean Connery's careers, and there's some also low points in his career where maybe he was there in the middle of something that maybe he shouldn't have been a part of. I know the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is not very well thought of. I know there's some others out there that he was a part of that maybe, hindsight's 2020 on that. But there's so many highs. Obviously playing Harrison Ford's dad in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, it's just a tremendous performance and really made it a lot of fun. And working with Steven Spielberg, I know that was obviously for Steven Spielberg. For Steven, he's quoted as saying, how much of an great experience it was working with Sean. And then, the Untouchables. Again, I got to go back to that. That is his Oscar-winning performance, and I believe it's when really you got to see the true. I think it's one of the best points in time, and probably where you got that mentor type actor, the supporting actor that's a mentor to whatever lead character it is. I think that's really the defining role for that type of character within the film genre is the role his role in The Untouchables.
Yeah, that's I haven't seen that movie in a really, really long time, but yeah, I remember that because that was a Kevin Costner film, correct?
Hmm. With Robert De
Okay, yeah.
Niro playing Al
Robert De
Capone.
Niro. Yeah, yeah. I mean, so he rubbed elbows with a lot of big names. Yeah, I mean, I think that when you reach that point, like you said, when you become you're playing the part of a mentor in a film, like, that is very symbolic of just what people think of you, and in terms of Hollywood.
Well, I tell you what, his legacy will always live on, and one of the most revered actors of this or any generation, Sir Sean Connery, has passed away at the age of 90, and we will miss you. We will miss you, Sean. And you'd never, there's anybody out there that plays the role further of James Bond. Anybody who says Bond, James Bond, it always goes back to him and the legacy that he's left behind. What are your thoughts out there on the passing of Sir Sean Connery at the age of 90? We want to hear your thoughts on movies that really, really endeared you to him and to his acting skills. We want to hear your thoughts on some great Sean Connery performances. I know there are so many others that we didn't even mention. Please share us your thoughts. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, there's more to talk about on today's show. The Mandalorian has exploded onto Disney Plus. I mean, everybody's talking about it. I know you are probably the only person on the planet that hasn't seen it yet who is going to. So I won't give you any spoilers out there, but I can tell you this time last year, or actually it was about 2-3 weeks later on in November. But I will say, my friend, that The Mandalorian, for me, season 2, episode 1, got off to a much better start. I think for me, it was really very fitting. It has a Western type feel even more. I know that's something that they patterned the show after our American Westerns, the spaghetti Westerns, things of that nature. And it really has that Western type feel. Though I can't get into specifics because you haven't seen it yet. Are you still excited to see The Mandalorian after all this time?
Yeah. I mean, I've recently started going back and watching Star Wars again, just trying to like get my hype level back up for it, or see if it still has the same effect on me as an adult. Even after the bad taste of some of the latest movies to come out, and I feel like the Mandalorian is a good like mixture of the things that made Star Wars so great and the things that Star Wars could do. And if they were to take a page from the Mandalorian and take a page from some of the newer games that have come out that they are considering canon, I think that the next Star Wars could be something very, very special.
I'm hoping it'll be something very, very special. I mean, they've gone to great expense. They've gone to great expense on this episode. I think it really has a nice look and feel, high production value. It was written and directed by John Favreau. So John Favreau has really got his hands all over this. He's had his hands all over season one, obviously overseeing everything, but he wanted to get the series off to a good start again this year. I wasn't as big a fan as again outside of the shock value of the end of episode one last year of seeing Baby Yoda. Obviously that was for a lot of people was the beginning of this craze, but for me this didn't seem to have many issues outside of I was worried last year about the timing and how things ran, plus a little bit inconsistent on the pacing. This felt really really smooth. This had a like it felt almost like I was watching a 1950s western, and even though there's an overarching theme, it felt like this is okay. This is the challenge for the gunslinger this week. This is the challenge for them this week, and bring it all together for this episode. And I understand that to map it out, it's going to have another. Okay, this is the episode this week. This is what he's going through. This is the adventure for this week. This is the adventure. They're trying to go ahead and make self-contained adventures while still trying to tell an overarching narrative. At least it got off the season to a good start. I was very happy with it. And of course, the surprise that's in there, which is not too much of a surprise since it's already been talked about at so much length already, it just tells you where they want to go with the series. So I'm looking forward to Josh being able to see The Mandalorian season 2, episode 1. But before we head on to another topic that we're going to be talking about, I mean, when it comes to The Mandalorian, is it right now going to be going forward something that I think a lot of people want to see? And do you think that ultimately it's going to be so big as it is right now, because Baby Yoda is the hottest thing in town? Do you think that it could actually be revived as far as a movie per se? Because I spoke about it on Friday's show with Noah Ian Fine about The Mandalorian and about how it could have a future on the big screen. Do you think that's where it ultimately will end up?
I don't think so. I think if anything, the Mandalorian is like the spiritual successor to Return of the Jedi that everybody wanted or didn't want. But I mean, nobody's done a cinematic Star Wars show ever. And because of like just how important this property has become to people, I'm hopeful that this is like Disney's kind of sitting back, taking notes on what does and doesn't work, knowing that like, hey, we have to take our time on storytelling. We have to really like dive in, be true to the lore, and not just manufacture these things over and over again. So I'm hoping that this is kind of a turning point for them as far as the Star Wars canon goes, and that it could lead. I would love to see the Mandalorian character on the big screen, but I don't think we'll see like the Mandalorian the movie, because look at they're making more money spreading it out as a series.
True, true. And but I don't know. I mean, the thought that you see now with these streaming outlets where they run series like 3, 4, 5 years, and then have Stranger Things. I'm going to equate it to Stranger Things because that's considered to be one of Netflix's highest properties right there. Stranger Things is ultimately going to have a point where it's going to stop, but they still want to do more with the series. So it could lead into a Stranger Things movie. See the same thing for The Mandalorian. Maybe 4 or 5 seasons of The Mandalorian, and then you never know if there's still a lot of clamor for it. There could be something that goes on. by then the movie theaters hopefully will be a place where people will populate once again, and by then maybe that's something, a way to go ahead and spice up the Star Wars series even more, because the future for the Star Wars series in theatrical films is kind of murky. So why not go with something that's been proven already on a small screen?
Yeah, so I mean, I can see it being like a Disney Plus movie. I don't see it being something that they're gonna like throw up on the big screen. You know, I can same thing with Stranger Things. Like if they're gonna do a movie, it'll probably premiere on Netflix as opposed to like being something that is distributed across, whatever movie theaters would be left in the country at that point in time.
Well, we'll see what happens with the Mandalorian, and we'll keep talking about it because it's what everyone out there wants to be talking about, and that is the Mandalorian. That's available now, episode 1, season 2. It's available right now on Disney Plus. We want to hear your thoughts. Have you caught episode 1 for season 2 of the Mandalorian yet? And we want to know, was it worth your time sitting down there? Because for me, it was. I think it got off to a much better start than the original season. But again, for me, the series really had some great highs and lows during the first season. I'm hoping for more of a consistent high. So that's what I'm hoping for with The Mandalorian. But what is The Mandalorian going to be like for you? We want to hear your thoughts. PopCultureCosmos@yahoo.com. My friend, there's more to talk about on today's program. In fact, our Black Friday coverage begins this month. And it's going to start off actually a little bit different. We always in the past just focused in on one big episode that we hit you with all the Black Friday stuff because all the Black Friday stuff came out at the same point in time. Well, 2020, as you know, has been a little bit different in so many ways. So I want to ask you this, my friend. Are you excited now to see so many different types of plans with all these different retailers throwing out different ideas on and concepts into the Black Friday process? Because first off, Walmart is doing separate Black Friday ads and they're scattering it throughout the month. I know other retailers are trying different ideas as well. So I want to hear your thoughts on this. Is a different approach to Black Friday a good thing for 2020?
Yes and no. I mean, I haven't seen like the end of the road, like what it's going to look like when all's said and done. But, it feels like they're just putting things on sale and then calling it part of Black Friday at this point.
And
So
that's what
I
you saw even last year. You saw a little taste of that. People, yeah, the Black Friday, get your Black Friday ads now. Get your Black Friday
early,
ads. Yeah, your
yeah.
prices
Well, I
now.
mean, and when like Prime Day happened, right?
Yeah.
Some people called it like an early Black Friday sale.
Get your
It's
Black
it's
Friday
not.
prices now.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like the full experience, and if you can't get things on like the legitimate Black Friday day that you can get on like now, then it doesn't, why call it Black Friday? Because it's not Black Friday.
And it's
And
on a
maybe that's
Wednesday
just 'cause, yeah, and right.
for
Well,
Walmart now.
okay. Yeah, no, you know what I mean though, but it's
Yeah.
like it's just the experience feels incomplete, and I guess it all depends on what you want to buy, but I got a couple gaming monitors from Best Buy last week for the school I work at, and it's not. They had some cool stuff on there, but I mean, they called it a Black Friday ad, but there's only like 15 things on sale, so it's not. It's just a sale. Why call it Black Friday? I think people would still buy at that point. They don't need the label.
Exactly. And this first ad by Walmart for what they call their Black Friday deals, which is showing up on the first Wednesday of the month, which is confusing even in and of itself. It's very troubling to see because you have Black Friday coming out on a Wednesday. Just like you said, call it the big grand holiday sale or something like that. But there is some decent stuff that's out there. And obviously the first thing that people go for are what's going on with TVs. And hitting people first off with a 65-inch 4K UHD Roku TV for 228. Obviously that's the big ticket item. That's the thing that people want to go away, that's the big thing that people target to is the 65-inch 228. for $228. So I want to ask you this, my friend. First off, 65-inch for 228. That's a really good price on a Roku television. So, does it really want to get you into that? I mean, for a lot of people that that can't afford the $1,000, $2,000 televisions, this might at least be a good way to start off with, especially if they want to go ahead in the next week, go after some next console generation consoles.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is a good time to buy a TV, and I think that the road like those, I have seen a lot of those TVs on sale, and like, yeah, go ahead, buy. I mean, and that's amazing. You'd be if you were in the market for one, like you would be foolish to not even consider something like that. But again, like just call it a sale. You know, if you go to Target any time of the year, you'll see those TVs, TCL or Roku or whatever. You'll see them marked off by almost 50% on any given Sunday. So it's not, again, it's still not really like a Black Friday, but just call it like the year's biggest TV sale. Like that would do the same thing. You know, I'm curious why they're, I don't know, extending Black Friday as opposed to just like making it all go on sale and just calling
I,
it a sale.
yeah, I hear you. And these are not the highest brands in the world. Okay, when I'm saying that it's
Yeah.
this is their ONN. As far as 65-inch class 4K UHD Roku television. I mean, that's and also they're doing an ONN 42-inch for $88, which I think is actually even better price for that. But you don't know the quality because this is maybe an exclusive brand for Walmart or whatever. I'm not familiar with ONN, and neither is the average consumer out there. So we don't know what kind of quality it's going to be, even though it says in the case of the 65-inch 4K UHD. So that's going to be very interesting. But if you do need a large television that could put out decent quality with some
Oh,
type of
yeah.
capability, there you go, 228. That's going to be a great deal. The thing that sticks out to me is something that doesn't go on sale all that often, and that's AirPods from Apple. And being $30 off on their Generation 2 AirPods, and they're going for $99, and it's online only. Just want to tell you, it's online only out there on all these things that we're talking about. If you go to Walmart on Wednesday, you're not going to be in for a great deal because these are all online only ads that I'm talking about right now. I want to ask you this, man. The AirPods are something that's really popular with a lot of people out there. And if you have Apple phones, iPhones, or any Apple devices, picking up a pair of these for $99, that might actually be one of the best things that you can get out there, at least early on in November.
Yeah, it also makes me wonder though, like how is Apple going to have some kind of sale where you can get them, cheaper than that? Because
Yeah.
usually if somebody is selling, secondhand, not a secondhand seller, but I mean, somebody who isn't Apple is selling something cheaper, Apple would counter that. I don't know. It doesn't, it feels like you're going to spend that money and then regret it because Apple's going to say, oh, hey, you can get them from us for $100 off, Uh, but yeah, I mean, anytime you get AirPods for cheaper than what they cost, it's still worth looking into. For me right now, I'm checking out these gaming laptops and like those, computer stuff is something. Yeah, they go on sale all the time, but so sometimes you see a bargain and it's hard to pass it up. Like if like $500 for a gaming laptop, that seems like a pretty good deal to me.
It does, and there's also, like I said, like you said, the gaming laptops. One high-end i7, that's $799. That one actually is also online only, so people are going to have to go ahead and get on Walmart.com early. It does has an 512 gigabyte SSD storage, so that's going to mean your games are going to run a little bit faster. There's also 8 gigabytes of RAM and a decent 15-inch monitor display, 15-inch display on the laptop. So MSI gaming laptop for $799. That's a pretty decent deal. They also have a Pavilion i5 for students out there. I think this might be something really that's worth looking into with an Intel Core i5. That's going to be a $449 deal. That's going to be also online only. It's going to run things okay for you, but again, it's really more geared for students doing a lot of their schoolwork and things of that nature, especially for those doing a lot of virtual schooling right now. So that's something a lot of people might look into. I think the fact, again, the iPods at $99 is really sticking out to me. There are some great ideas that are out there for in this Walmart ad, including for Hot Wheels, also as well for stuff that's out there for Hatchimals, other toys. Nerf, Nerf. 50 years later, Nerf is still good, my friend. It's still a big seller. And then, of course, there's a lot of home electronics if you're in need as far as for cooking, for vacuuming, things of that nature. Some pretty good deals there. So I want to go ahead and give everybody a shout out. If you can, take a look at the Walmart.com ad. Take a look at it. And if there's something you like, I'd say buy early because you don't know what the accessibility is going to be like for products similar to these, maybe at a little bit better price later on in the month. But Josh, go ahead as well. Just share your thoughts on this. I would say if there's something you really want to target this holiday, buy early, invest early, and don't get left behind.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot too. I think that yeah, if you see something on sale or you see a deal, definitely pick it up because I'm thinking about we went out to Arlington, Texas, and we went to this mall there, and it's the biggest mall I've ever seen in my life. But like, we're trying to go. They have all these really cool stores, and I want to go into a lot of them. They have like a Think Geek, Box Lunch, stuff, places like that. But you have to wait in line to get into it. So I'm thinking when the holidays get here and these places are packed, who knows how long some of these lines are going to be in order to get into the store because they're only letting so many people in with COVID going on. So I would
That's why a
definitely
lot
say
of these. Well, I'm just say this. Well, that's why a lot of these early ads and a lot of these prices that we shouted off already, they're geared online only ads. So I think they're leaning in that direction.
Yeah, so I mean, definitely, if you see something that could be a present for somebody or something that you want yourself, like this is it's definitely worth picking up at this point, just because I feel like Christmas is going to be chaos this year.
It is in so many ways, but with the strong leaning towards online purchasing, I think a lot of people out there should start checking and investigating and doing the research now into products that you're interested in. Go to the sites like blackfriday.com and also the other Black Friday ad sites that are out there. Check out all the different Black Friday ads and all that because they're starting to pop up, and a lot of them are geared more towards online consumer purchasing. So that's going to make it a lot more attractive to a lot of people that are concerned about going down to the stores and being in the bustle and the hustle of everything that's going on with that it usually does every Black Friday. Because you know me,
Yeah.
I had lived for Black Friday. Now I just want to live through Black Friday at this point.
Yeah, well, I mean, I love the experience of being able to go into the store, but like having to wait in line for 20 minutes to get into a store at the mall, it's just that I don't want to do that. Like that sounds awful. Like why, if I can do it, I guess from the comfort of my home, I guess I'd much rather do that unless it's like some specialty item that I wanted like right now, then maybe I consider go standing in line. But this year's Christmas shopping is going to be absolutely insane. I'm already seeing the mall here in town where we live is already packed out anytime you go there. So just be ever since last week, and people are doing their holiday shopping these days. So I imagine when December rolls around, it's going to be even worse.
It is probably going to get worse as far as people packing the malls, packing the shopping centers. Hopefully, that'll be a good sign for a lot of people as far as economy. But please, if you're out there, be safe. I don't want to go into it on as far as anything of that nature. Just please be very conscious, social distancing, mask. Just be safe. Just be safe and be wary of protecting yourself and others out there. What regards to the way you feel on that subject, just you don't want to get something else besides going ahead and getting a great deal this holiday. You don't want to get something else. That's pretty much what I was saying.
Yeah,
But
yeah, just, be safe. Don't if you feel uncomfortable going somewhere or doing something, don't do it. It's really just like everyone's got their own thoughts and opinions and that's whatever, but just, you know, look out for you, and I mean that could be said at any Black Friday too. Like look out for you. Like don't put yourself in front of a bunch of like angry shopping carts, people shopping carts because you want the last item on the shelf. Just look out for
Don't fight for that
your
underwear this year. Let the old
right.
lady have it. Let the old lady have it.
Yes, and if you're one of those people that likes to lick items so people don't touch them, it's not worth it.
Well, there is going to be a lot of great ads over the next few days that are going to be popping up, and we at the Pop Culture Cosmos will try to bring that to you either off of our Facebook page, Pop Culture Cosmos, or what you can do is go ahead and follow us on our shows. I'm going to go ahead and bring up some of the best deals or best things that we're looking at for this Black Friday season, which, as we're seeing now, is no longer a Black Friday, or no longer on Black Friday. You can see it on Wednesdays. You might see it on Thursdays. You might see it on Tuesdays. Who knows? But the Black Friday shopping season has now arrived with Walmart's first ad going up on the 4th of November. If you want to go ahead and check it out, it will be up this week on the Pop Culture Cosmos Facebook page or wherever you get your Black Friday ads. What are your thoughts out there on the Walmart way of doing things for this Black Friday with separate Black Friday ads all scattered all throughout the month? And what are you looking forward to getting this Black Friday and holiday shopping season? We want to hear your thoughts. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, coming up next, we got two great guests coming up back to back. It's Kelly Lanigan. He's going to be talking a little bit about HBO's The Vow and his thoughts on it as he and I go back and forth on Nixium and also the big news that came out just as we were taping it. So we want to go ahead and talk about that coming up. Plus, Ben Arnault is going to be on real quick with a quick soundbite on his excitement for The Mandalorian. He's also coming back next week to talk more about some cooking ideas. We're looking forward to that. But Ben Arnault is also coming up later in the program talking The Mandalorian. And then Josh and I will be closing out the show talking about Arcade 1-Up's pinball machines, why this wasn't a great year to watch horror movies, and McRib. That's all coming up at the back end of the show. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. Want to thank so much Kelly Lanigan. And we're back with the Pop Culture Cosmos. Want to thank so much Kelly Lanigan for stopping on today's program. You got to go ahead and check him out, and as he goes in with us, you want to go ahead and check out what he's doing every single Monday on the Pop Culture Cosmos Facebook page, as he and other great adventurers, along with myself, are there each and every Monday for our Dungeons and Dragons adventures. And I also want to thank Ben Arnault from Smoking Hot Confessions. Want to go ahead and check out everything that he's doing at SmokingHotConfessions.com. Want to thank him so much for sharing thoughts on The Mandalorian. Looking forward to his cooking thoughts next week. So that'll be on the Pop Culture Cosmos next week. So I'm looking forward to that. I also want to go ahead and announce that we are a part of the Indie Pods United coming up at the back end of the month. In fact, right now we're scheduled to be one of the premier shows on the first day of the convention, November 29th. So Josh hopefully will be there. I'm hoping to get Marcus. I'm hoping to get a grand crew together. It's going to be a great half hour of fun there. It's going to be November 29th. We'll get you the times and details and also the information, but it's a great convention you want to go ahead and check out, with dozens and dozens and dozens of podcasts over the course of 5 days showing off their wares. So if you're looking for a great podcast, you want to go ahead and check it out. Looking to start your own podcast, and also some other great music and comedian guests that are also going to be part of it. It's a great convention. Tickets are already on sale. It's going to be $10, just $2 a day to check out everything. There will also be a lot of free streaming out there as well. It's free of charge streaming as well. So you want to go ahead and check that out. IndiePodsUnited.com will have more information for you out there. That's IndiePodUnited.com. And I want to go ahead and give a big shout out to the Psychedelic Podcast and Tina Marie and Robert, who are heading this up. So I want to go ahead and thank them for allowing us at the Pop Culture Cosmos to be a part of Indie Pods United. But my friend, before we head on out, I want to ask you this. Arcade 1-Up just finalized its games for its pinball machines. So getting the list out right now, they've come out with 3 different kinds. It's going to be a Marvel Games pinball machine with Spider-Man, Civil War, Wolverine, X-Men, Thor, Marvel's Women of Power, A-Force, Ghost Rider, Venom, Fantastic Four, and Fear itself. Star Wars will have a pinball themed. Star Wars will have a theme for their pinball machine with Boba Fett, A New Hope, AHCH to Island, AHCH to Island. Actually, it's, I think Octo Island, Battle of Mimban, Darth Vader, which was misspelled on IGN, so they got to go ahead and change that. Darth Vader, Masters of the Force, Star Wars Rebels, Han Solo. I don't want to go into the Xbox Connect version of that. The Force Awakens and The Empire Strikes Back, and Attack from Mars will be the other pinball theme that you can go ahead and get out there. That's Attack from Mars, Fish Tales, The Getaway, Junkyard, Medieval Madness, Whitewater, Red and Ted, Funhouse, Tales of the Arabian Nights, which is that one's a really good one. I remember that one, and it's also Attack from Mars, and No Good Gophers. That's all going to be set up by our good friends at Zen Studios, who we've actually interviewed before here at GameSource. So I want to ask you this, my friend. These units are going to roughly be charged. You can go ahead, I think, order some of them on GameStop already, between $500 and $600. Do you think this is going to be a good deal for anyone out there that's interested in pursuing a pinball fantasy?
Yeah, I mean, it's video pinball, right?
Yes. Well, it's the actual pinball machine setups, and then the interface is going to be, to be able to be what you're seeing as far as, let's say you want a Spider-Man table. It's going to turn into a Spider-Man table. If you want a Empire Strikes Back table, it's going to be an Empire Strikes Back table. It's going to be something that it's going to have the actual physical units that's set up there. So what are your thoughts on this? It's similar to what you're seeing now with the Arcade 1-Up game machines, like the one you have.
Yeah. I mean, that's exciting. Pinball machines are expensive, and I think that having them be more accessible at any level is a great idea. I would hope that I would hope that the quality with a pinball machine will be better, because you're not using like game mods. You're just using, not mods, but I mean like different versions of games, right? Like how my Galaga is from PlayStation 3, then it just doesn't work very well. With pinball machine, my hope would be that it would be like a more higher quality product, and just because there's it has to work or it doesn't work. So that would be, I am definitely interested in it. I want to see it run. I want to see it in person, but it is definitely something that I am interested in. You said this is on its way out and it's going to be ready for the holiday season.
It's looking like it. In fact, you can order some, at least one of the units already at GameStop. You can pre-order it. So I'm not as high on these as much as I am the Infinity Table. And the reason why I say that, because the Infinity Table just added, they announced that they're adding some games like Asteroids and other arcade games from the past that you've already seen on some of their Arcade 1-Up stand-up units. They're throwing that into the Infinity Game Table. And along with the board games from Hasbro, the comics that they're doing, the ability to show, I think, other videos and things of that nature, plus play some arcade games, makes this Infinity Table really enticing. Whereas the pinball machines, you've got to be really into pinball and a pinball aficionado, and it's kind of nice as a decorative item, but as something that's going to be as possibly expensive as $600, it's going to be I think it's going to be a harder sell than the arcade machines that we've seen over the past 2-3 years.
Yeah, you're getting a little more bang for your buck, and that could be cool. I mean, also, like, who doesn't remember like sitting at a pizza place eating pizza on like a table and playing video games? Like, that whole concept's really cool. I want to see, again, like with Arcade 1-Up stuff, like I have to see it in action, and most of the time, like, I'll have to try it, because you don't know what you're gonna get always. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited about all this stuff coming out with Arcade 1-Up. I just I hope that they're good products.
I know, because they've had some questions. I know a lot of people have had some questions on some things as far as the build qualities and things of that nature. I know there's been a lot of talk about that, But for me, my arcade one-up has been outstanding. I know you have an arcade one-up as well that's really worked out, for you. I really enjoyed my time with Arcade One Up. I'm intrigued on the pinball machines. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's more. How should I say? It's more niche wise. As far as I don't know, think it's going to reach as broad of a base of consumers as these Arcade One Ups did, because the price point plus also the fact that it really just hit a niche at the right time. Now you're going into the pinball units, and I think it's going to be a little bit harder sell to reach a large base of consumers.
Yeah, but I mean, most people who do play arcades or who grew up in the arcades were fans of pinball machines. Like you go into a lot of like barcades, you'll see a lot of pinball machines in there too. So I think that there's definitely a market for them. But yes, you're right. It is a little more niche.
What are your thoughts out there on Arcade One Up going into the world of pinball with several different options that are being brought to you, that are being brought to consumers with a whole varying load of games? We want to hear your thoughts. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, before we head on out, two last things, and that I want to ask you this. I mean, we just passed Halloween, and I understand the Craft Legacy came out to on demand, and all the box office really wasn't great for the other horror entry, Come Play, even though it did lead the nation, it did lead the US in box office. We're only talking about a paltry $3.2 million, which is $3.2 million, so it should be great for you and I, but 3.2 million for a movie opening is not that great at all, even though it was number one. I want to ask you this. I just didn't feel watching horror movies this year, because usually every year I will go ahead and prep myself in our conversations with Noe and Fine, our horror expert, who's going to be joining us on the Friday show once again. I want to ask you this. It really wasn't a great year for horror movies this time around. I mean, the Craft Legacy just didn't do it for me. Maybe it's because of 2020. I just think it's so hard for a lot of people to get into horror movies this year.
Yeah, I mean, the world's already pretty scary, but I look at this as horror movies have kind of, I don't know, I feel like they've reached a point where they're just, you know what you're getting out of them. You know what
Systematic
to
per se.
expect. Yeah, it's very formulaic. And, I'd hope that James Wan does something different with like Conjuring 3, because that actually sounds really cool. But, that era is long gone. The 90s was a great time for horror movies. Early 2000s had some pretty good stuff as far as like The Grudge and The Ring and movies like that, but we've reached a point where like those movies, if those movies were to have come out today, they would be Netflix films, and you could watch anything on Netflix. They're not necessarily scary, but people like horror movies so much that it's hard to like scare people anymore. And because of that, it's hard to break out of that horror movie formula, because it's been so tried and true. Like I look at something like It, that's like the cool kids all have seen It, but It is not a horror movie. It's more like it's a story about these kids that happens to take place in a horror setting. And I think movies like that are really well done. But as far as like, you don't get a lot of movies like Lights Out and Darkness Falls and stuff like that anymore, because they were products of their time, and now just people don't, it just doesn't grab people like it used to. No pun intended.
No pun intended, indeed. But I think that it is a little bit harder, like you said, for horror movies, because, like you said, most people are really just, they're already seen it all. They've seen it all when it comes to horror movies. Although they are still, as we've gone on several times this year, I mean, several times over the course of the past years on the show, have stated time and time again, horror movies are some of the best bets out there in cinema, because they're usually very low financed. They don't come with a high dollar ticket as far as production, and you can usually get a nice return on them. Now with the theater situation as it is, you may still be able to sell off your horror movie to a streaming service at a nice price and get a decent return on it. What are your thoughts on that going forward? Because right now, these cheap horror movies, if they still keep coming out, could find nice homes at like your Netflixes, your Hulus, your Amazon Primes. You could still see that market going forward. It's going to be a lot easier transition for them than let's say these higher big budget films.
I don't think it's a situation strictly isolated to horror films. I think that anybody who has an idea for a film that might seem uncertain to a studio could take it to Netflix and it would do just fine. Have you ever like actually strolled through some of like the garbage you can watch on Amazon Prime? Like there's a horror movie there and it is literally just somebody who filmed something with a camcorder. Like if you can get anything out anywhere, you know, and it's just it's pretty simple to do. So I mean, I think that if you're an aspiring filmmaker, the streaming platform is definitely the best place to be, especially with horror films, because people will spend their entire lives watching horror movies on Netflix, and especially like people in like the 13 to 25 range.
What are your thoughts out there on the horror movie genre as we hit a different age of viewing with the predominance of streaming and the lesser just importance of the world of theaters and the film experience on a big screen just because of what's going on with the coronavirus and what's all taking place in 2020? We want to hear your thoughts on the future of horror films. If you've got one, we'd love to hear it. Popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, it's been a great episode. We got a lot of stuff to talk about as Noah Ian Fine returns in the hot chair, in the big chair on Friday's episode. But before we head on out, my friend, McRib is back. But this time, it's not going to be done on a regional basis as it has in previous years. It's going to be done on a nationwide basis, the first time since 2012. I know McDonald's has changed a little bit about what they're doing, as far as how their presentation works, as far as their food is concerned, packaging a lot of meals after famous celebrities in recent months, and now this national rollout once again, and first time in many years for the McRib. What are your thoughts on the McRib, and is it really cool to see it being brought out on a nationwide basis?
You know, I've never like been a McRib lover. I think it tastes okay. I've never like been obviously as
Bite your
much of a
tongue.
fan as you have. I know it's special to everybody, but like I yeah, I mean I don't understand like why McDonald's puts things back in the vault, the quote unquote vault.
Like Disney.
But like Disney, yes, I guess to create that demand for it. But I mean, anytime you go to McDonald's breakfast, lunch, or dinner, like you're gonna find a line in the drive-through. So it's just kind of weird that they would make this like specifically for this time or this time. But I get it. You know, it's the same thing with like the I guess their Szechuan sauce that everyone's obsessed with for a while. So I don't know. What are your thoughts though?
I go to McDonald's once or twice a year. Maybe I go for breakfast if we're like out and on a trip or something. I did when we were coming back from Texas. We went there for breakfast on a drive-through. But for us, really the one targeted point in year that I make an effort to go to McDonald's is when they roll out the McRib. So I will be going and heading there. For me, it's something special that goes for me way back to when I was a kid when they first rolled out the McRib. And yes, I know what a McRib is. I know what it's made out of. I know it's not exactly what it seems, but it's still darn good tasting to me. And I look forward to going ahead and having a taste in the next few weeks or so. So I'm looking forward to it, my friend. It's the only reason why I would realistically go to McDonald's, why I would look forward to going to McDonald's, because the allure of going to McDonald's is now gone for me. As someone who went for years and years and years, it's just there's no allure for me outside of a McRib at this point in time.
All right. I can get that. You know, it's like making something feel new again, or even just for nostalgia. I can totally understand that. It's easy to get tired of fast food real quick, so I totally get that. I'm curious, like statistically, how many people go, like how much their business increases when the McRib comes out. So I'd like to do some research on that.
What are your thoughts out there on the McRib? Are you going to go ahead and hit up a McDonald's near you, because for the first time since 2012, they're actually hitting nationwide. The McRib legend is back. What are your thoughts on McRib, and are you going to go ahead and have one in the next few weeks? Share us your thoughts. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, it's been a great episode. I cannot thank you enough for being part of it. Any last thoughts on the way out?
I gotta look at some more Black Friday ads. I'm curious. I didn't know that this was becoming like a spatial thing, so I am going to check some things out, and we'll chat more about this.
Absolutely, because I'm going to hit you up with some more Black Friday preview ads, Black Friday stuff. We're going to go ahead and hit up on our Black Friday preview coming up on next week's Pop Culture Cosmos. I may even have something for Noah on Friday's program for Black Friday. We'll see. It depends on exactly what's coming out there in the near future. But Black Friday is looking like it's expanding throughout the month of November. And we'll keep you up to date right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the Pop Culture Cosmos. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great